Oh, this guy's about to get cooked. Woo! Man, this guy's about to get cooked. This guy is about to get cooked. Thank you for the $5, Park Jung Young. So Park Jung Young says, Usman faced good competition while being more dominant than Volk. You don't give other fighters the same statistically permissible. First off, Usman is a welterweight. Welterweights have won title fights at the age of 35 and older. So it's not as statistically permissible. It's sort of statistically permissible, but not totally. Okay, so there's a big difference. Not a single fighter 155 pounds or below has ever won a title fight at 35. That's not been the case of welterweight. So right off the bat, we just cooked you right there. But let me cook you on the first point. Usman faced good competition while being more dominant than Volk. Colby Covington? Remember they said Colby was the Max Holloway of the welterweight division? Colby Covington's best win is over RDA, who is 35, who was overrated his whole career, and it was a 48-47. Volk beat Holloway at UFC 245. Let's not even talk about the second and third fight. He just beat Holloway once. Let's talk about the second win over Colby, arguable draw. All right. Has Usman ever 50-45'd Colby Covington? So right off the bat, 50-45 over Max Holloway, 4-1 against Max Holloway. Draw, arguable draw against Colby, and close fight and another war finish. Great. That's good. Listen, I think Colby's a good win. Especially, listen, just because Colby doesn't have a good resume doesn't mean that he's not a good win. Colby was a great fighter, and I believe that Colby at one point in time, 2018, 2019, was good enough to be a champion. But good competition while being more dominant. He was not more dominant against Colby than Volk was against Max. Let's just put that out there. Next up, we got Gilbert Burns as Usman's second best win. How does Gilbert Burns, or maybe Tyron Woodley, how does Tyron Woodley compare to Jose Aldo? That's what I'm saying. So right off the bat, you know, we're talking good competition. Okay, Usman's dominant against Woodley. Okay, Volk outclassed Jose Aldo. And Jose Aldo is Jose Aldo, who's a top 10 fighter of all time. I mean, what are we doing? Good comp? Okay, good comp is not the same thing as unreal comp. And what else we got? Yair Rodriguez and Gilbert Burns, similar level. Similar level. Listen, Usman's great. I have him in my top 10, but don't start by saying Listen, Usman had lost. How many rounds had Usman lost in his career? Let's actually think about this. Let's think about this. So we lost. Wait a second. Has Volkanovski ever gotten shut down 4-1 via points? I know Volk hasn't on the feet. Volk has never got shut down on the feet like Usman did. But either way, Volk lost a round to Islam Makhachev. Let's say he lost 3 rounds to Islam Makhachev in the first fight. He lost 2 rounds to Holloway in the second fight, 1 round to Holloway in the first fight, 1 round in one of his early fights. Volkanovski's lost 7 rounds in his whole career. I'll just leave that right there. Volk has only lost 7 rounds. Can you fucking imagine? 7 rounds in his entire career is insane, dude. Dude, Volk got chinned in his last 2 fights, and you're talking about him like, yeah, well, listen, Volkanovski's slipping and sliding. I agree. Volk is slipping and sliding. But I'm just saying, listen, get knocked out. Okay, fair enough. We're talking just rounds. You get KO'd, that's a loss in and of itself. But we're just talking rounds from the first second to the last second, the bell rings. How many rounds? I know Volk got knocked out. It's not a good look. I think Topuria is, would have knocked him out if he wasn't coming off of a KO loss. You know, I give Topuria all the credit for knocking Volk out. Even though I say it was statistically permissible for him to lose, Volk didn't lose because of a chin thing. He lost because it wasn't good enough. But 7 rounds is pretty ridiculous, especially when you're in Holloway's division, especially when Max Holloway is the volume guy, the cardio guy. So you're talking about Usman. Let's actually think about how many rounds Usman's lost. I actually want to think about it. 1 to Gilbert Burns. He lost 3 to Tyron Woodley. So that's 4 rounds right there. He lost 3 to Tyron Woodley. No, I'm joking. He didn't lose a single to Woodley. 1 to Gilbert Burns. 1 to Leon Edwards way back in the day. He lost a round to Leon Edwards in their first fight. Did he lose a round to Emil Meek? I don't know. I don't think he did. But he lost a round to Gilbert Burns, 1 to Leon Edwards back in the day. He lost 3 to Colby Covington, so that's 5 in the first fight. 2 to Colby Covington in the second fight. He lost 1 round to Leon in the first round of the rematch. And then he lost 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's 12 rounds. I might be missing one. 12 rounds lost for Usman. 7 for Volk. And Volk had better competition too. So we're talking about dominance. Listen, I know Usman was dominant. Not many people were as dominant as Volk. All right. Also, well, Hamzat is at middleweight. We're talking about, I guess Hamzat too. You can say he lost a round to Hamzat. There you go. Volk literally lost to Islam 4-1. I mean, I gave Islam 3 rounds in that fight, and I counted that. If you want to give him 4, then it's 8. Then it's 13-8 instead of 12-7. Or 13-8. 8 rounds in your whole career is nuts. Max Holloway. No! Woo-hoo! Wait a second. Holloway has lost more rounds to Volkanovski. Holloway has lost more rounds to Volkanovski than Volk has lost rounds in his entire career. That's insane. That's crazy. See, this is the thing. You won't get any other takes. You won't get these takes anywhere else because people don't understand how good Volk is. L, man. Glaze? I'm not glazing. I'm just speaking facts. Dude, you wouldn't freaking bat an eye if someone was out here saying GSP had the most takedowns ever. You'd be like, yeah, man, GSP was underrated, man. You won't bat an eye if someone puts fucking Rafael Fiziev at the number 3 spot for best strikers. You got Fiziev at the number 3 spot, man. He's just real good kicks, man. He's the Muay Thai guy, bro. Yeah, man, you got to have Fiziev in the mix. Never bad pick a number 3 spot. But I talk about Volkanovski and how many rounds he's lost, and I'm glazing. Come on, dude. I'm literally just speaking facts. But how many rounds has Holloway lost to Volk? Holloway lost 5, 4. Holloway has lost 11 rounds to Volk. Volk has lost 8 rounds in his entire career. That's insane. Insane. Dude, I need to make a video on how Volkanovski is the most underrated fighter ever. You guys want to see that? Like, listen, people are starting to forget. I feel like we kind of need a little bit of Volk propaganda because Volk is being forgot about. And, you know, Volk has always been one of these guys where people were like, yeah, I got Volk at the number 15 spot. We can't allow it. Make it? Should I make it? No, man. Am I wrong, though? I'm not just, this is the thing. I'm not just making a video on Volk because I'm a fan and that's it. I'm making a video. Dude, I'm a fan because of these stats. I'm a fan because of these stats. That's what people don't understand. I'm not just a fan of Volk and I'm pulling things out of thin air to hype up. I'm a fan of Volk and I hype him up because of these stats. Because he's underrated as fuck. It's not to say overrated. No, he's underrated. He's overrated as fuck. Nah, I might. Check the stats, bro. Check the stats. Nobody would say that about Fiziev. I'm just exaggerating with the Fiziev tick. But I'm just saying, like, you know, you could have someone put Anderson Silva at the number 2 spot all time and no one would have an issue. Not no one would have an issue. You could put Silva at, like, the number 5 spot and people would be like, yeah, man, can't fault you for that, man. Even though there's not a good argument for it. I'm making good arguments. Bring the heat. Bring the heat. I'm telling you, nobody else is a Volkanovski realist. Like, nah, I mean to say that. What I mean to say is there's no one else in MMA media, MMA YouTube that is setting the record straight on Volkanovski arguably being the best fighter of our generation. Like, nobody's really doing that. Nobody else is talking about the reality of the situation, which is Volkanovski is arguably the GOAT. Arguably the GOAT of the modern MMA world, okay? No, I mean, I might make a video on it. You know what I also want to do? I also want to do a video on how Izzy is the most overrated fighter in history. Because, dude, I don't even dislike him as much as people think. It's just that he is, though. The stats back it up. I should do a series. The most overrated fighter in history. The most underrated fighter in history. The best striker that people forgot. I'm going to do like a series on that. I'm going to do a fighter series where I do documentary 10-minute videos on like individual fighters. I'll be like the most underrated grappler of all time. I'm going to do stuff like that. I'm not going to do the Izzy video anytime soon, though. If he loses to Dricus du Plessis, everyone's going to say that I was right, though. That's what, remember, they were saying that after, I remember after he lost to Sean Strickland, everyone was like, bro, you were right all along, man. He was overrated. Now people are back to Izzy by any way he wants against Dricus. When does the title reign beat specific rounds? Welterweight comp isn't as bad as you think. Aldo lost every fight against great comp later. Chinned before 50-45. When does a title reign beat specific rounds? Welterweight competition isn't bad as you think. Aldo lost every fight against great comp. Oh, okay. You're talking about Usman. Okay, so you're comparing someone like Aldo to Usman. Yeah. So you think it's worse to get chinned before 50-45? I mean, listen, I think that Kamaru Usman and Aldo are pretty close to each other on the GOAT list. But I'm not too sure what you're saying. When does title reign beat specific rounds? What do you mean by beat specific rounds? Like rounds lost? Aldo's lost way more rounds than Usman, probably. So right off the bat, Usman has the advantage there. I rate Aldo so high, not just because of his title reign, but because of all the wins that he has as an older guy. All the wins that he has post-title reign. That's what's impressive. Renato Moicano, Jeremy Stevens, just regular wins, right? But then, of course, you got the tough outs like Pedro Munoz. And Pedro Munoz is not that good, but he's a tough out. And a tough out is always a tough day at the office. You got Pedro Munoz. You got Marlon Vera, who's always a tough out, who's always capable of knocking you out of nowhere. And you've also got a guy like Rob Font, who looked good against Aldo early. Rob Font, if you watch the first 2 minutes of Aldo versus Rob Font, you'll be convinced that Rob Font is better. If that's all you watch, if you were not a fan of the sport, so you're not going to ask the question of what happens after. If you just watch the first 2 minutes, you'll be like, dude, Rob Font's whooping his ass. Aldo, won the majority of that fight. Beat up Rob Font. Had multiple knockdowns. Out-grappled him. So those are great wins. And then he got a win over Martinez after a year-long layoff. And he also has that Frankie Edgar win. He got knocked the fuck out twice, true. Volk did get KO'd. It sucks, man. It really does suck, But it just seemed like a matter of time before the Topuria fight. I just knew it was going to happen. Watching that fight and then watching it back. There were so many moments where Volkanovski is just sitting there waiting to be KO'd. He needs to fix that weakness in his game, that defensive weakness. But you know what? Not many fighters could have exposed it. Like, Topuria is one of the only guys that could expose that because of his stature and the way that he throws punches. Izzy has more KOs than Volk in title reign. Izzy's better. Actually, it's pretty close. Volk TKO'd Yair. Volk TKO'd TKZ. I guess you're right. Yeah. I mean, he got very close to a TKO over Brian Ortega. That fight could have been stopped. I'm happy it wasn't, but it could have been stopped. It literally could have been stopped in the 4th round. I wish it was, bro. I wish it was. There was a moment where Ortega didn't get up to his stool. And there's actually a rule that you have to get up to your own stool and you can't be helped. And he was helped up to his stool. But yeah, Izzy has more KOs. That doesn't mean he's better. But yeah, he's a KO guy. I mean, we all know Izzy's a KO guy. Most of the time he's not, but the way he wins is by knocking people out, of course. Usually. John won rounds 3, 4, 5 against Reyes. I don't care. I said it. You're just wrong. I'm sorry. I've watched that fight too many times. I've never seen it the other way. Reyes wins. They're very clear rounds. Thank you for the 249. Would Max eat the KO shot Topuria landed on Volk? I don't know. That's what I'm waiting for. That's what I don't know. I think that Topuria could land it. I don't know if he knocks him out with it. Holloway could be the one to eat that shot. But to be honest, that's like the type of punch that KOs anyone. The thing is, maybe Max wouldn't get hit with that exact shot when he doesn't see it, because Volk Volk was kind of trapped into getting hit with that punch. Maybe Holloway would see it coming better. Maybe Holloway wouldn't let himself get put in that situation as easily. You never know. But, okay, assuming it's the exact same shot, maybe. Maybe. Holloway got dropped in his last fight. We can't just ignore that. It wasn't a horrible knockdown. It wasn't like a really concussive knockdown, but he got dropped